Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Today's story is about what happens when someone gets hired into AT who has no business being there and decides to compensate for that fact by bullying the one person who actually knows what they're doing. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Team took down our boss and his toxic hire. For 2 years, my life at company followed the serene, predictable rhythm of well-maintained code. I'd landed the IT support specialist role straight out of state college, and the department, a nest of hoodies and quiet competence, had become a second home. My colleagues were my friends. I was the guy who'd cover your on-call shift so you could make your kids' recital, the one who always had a spare cable or a clear, patient explanation for a panicked marketing VP. My reviews were stellar, my ticket closure rate was top tier, and my world was one of the logical problems with logical solutions. Then the environment variable known as Karen was introduced, and the entire system crashed. Her name was Kendra, technically, but the moniker Karen was whispered between server racks before her first week was out. She was 22, fresh from a dubious online certification program, and she entered our domain not with the tentative curiosity of a new hire, but with the imperious disdain of a visiting auditor. Our boss, Michael, a man in his late 40s who loved to talk about his golf handicap and his war stories from the early days of networking, introduced her as a dynamic new talent who would inject fresh energy into our team. The energy she injected was pure, undiluted hostility, and it was directed almost exclusively at me. It began with microaggressions disguised as professionalism. "Your troubleshooting methodology is so methodical," she'd say, leaning over my shoulder, her perfume a cloud of synthetic berries. "Haven't you heard of thinking outside the ticket?" She'd critique my ticket notes and team chats, calling them excessively detailed. She'd sigh loudly when I was explaining a network topology to a user on the phone. The escalation was swift. Soon she was yelling across the cubicle farm, "David, did you just restart the Jenkins server? I had a build running." I hadn't, and the logs proved it. "Why does your lunch always smell so potent?" It was leftover chicken tiki masala, a masterpiece my mother had packed. "Can you try to be less of a human brick wall? Your presence is blocking the airflow." That one, a comment on my physique delivered with a cold smile, left me speechless. I am, a big guy, 6'2", built like a linebacker who discovered code. It had never been an issue, until it was her issue. The worst part was her staggering incompetence. She couldn't differentiate between a DNS failure and a disconnected cable. Her idea of incident response was to panic and loudly assign blame, usually to me. Questions arose immediately. Michael had hired her over 3 far more qualified candidates. Our department required specific, verifiable skills she demonstrably lacked. The corporate nepotism alarm bells, silent for years, began blaring. My colleagues, a fiercely loyal group of geeks named Chloe, Raj, and Marcus, started their own unofficial investigation. It began as a protective measure. "Tell me exactly what she said." Chloe, our cybersecurity lead, would demand, her eyes hard behind her glasses, verbatim. Raj started monitoring access logs with a new personal interest. Marcus, our gentle giant sysadmin, began subtly challenging her in meetings, asking pointed technical questions that left her flustered and sputtering. The first major clue was the parking lot. Raj, a chronic early bird, noticed Michael's silver Lexus parked not in his reserve spot, but in the far corner of the employee lot. At 7:15 a.m., Karen's beat-up Civic would pull up alongside it. She wouldn't get out and walk in separately. She'd hop directly into his passenger seat. They'd sit for 10, sometimes 20 minutes, the car fogging up slightly before emerging, trying to look casual as they walked a calculated distance apart toward the building. The second clue was restaurant-based. Chloe's fiancé was a sous chef at a pricey downtown steakhouse. One evening, he sent Chloe a grainy, discreet phone photo. Michael and Karen tucked into a shadowy corner booth, their heads close together, Michael's hand resting on the table near hers. Not definitive proof, but a data point. Then Marcus spotted them at a cinema, miles from the office, pretending not to see each other in the ticket line. The pattern was undeniable. This wasn't mentorship, it was an affair. The final grim piece of the puzzle was Michael's wife, Eleanor. I'd met her at the last holiday party. She was elegant, sharp-witted, a graphic designer who'd built her own small firm. She'd chatted with me about the challenges of freelance work with a genuine interest. She'd brought homemade cookies for the whole department. The thought of this smart, kind woman being betrayed by her husband for a venomous, incompetent girl half his age filled us with a cold, collective rage. This wasn't just office politics anymore, it was a moral infection. Karen, emboldened by whatever whispered promises Michael made in his Lexus, became brazen. Her criticism of me shifted from my work to my person. In a team sync about firewall rules, I made a minor verbal slip correcting UDP to TCP. She didn't correct the technicality, she attacked the man. "God, David, do you ever think before you speak?" she snapped, rolling her eyes for the team's benefit. "Or does it all just get stuck in transit?" Her gaze swept over me, dripping with contempt. The room froze. The subtext was a nuclear blast. My size, my quiet nature, my very existence was an inconvenience to her. That was the catalyst. We moved from observation to action. We had a hypothesis. Karen was a non-technical hire placed by Michael for personal reasons, creating a hostile work environment to cover her inadequacy and possibly to force me or others out. We needed evidence. Chloe took point. As cybersecurity, she had legitimate access to audit trails, but she'd tread carefully, documenting every query. She found Karen's login history, vast stretches of inactivity punctuated by bursts of copying files from the department's shared drive, not work files but templates, project proposals, and presentations, likely to give the illusion of productivity. Raj set up a honeypot, a fake project folder with enticing titles like Q4 Infrastructure Overhaul, Confidential. Karen accessed it within hours. Meanwhile, we documented everything. Every snide remark, every public dressing down was logged in a shared encrypted document with times, dates, and witnesses. Marcus, who had a knack for being invisibly present, recorded audio on his phone during several of Karen's tirades, ensuring we were in a one-party consent state. The plan was not to go to HR. Michael played golf with the HR director. Our plan was to go around HR. We needed an external, unstoppable force. We needed Eleanor. Finding her contact was easy. Her design firm was public. Contacting her was the hard part. Chloe crafted the message, a model of discreet, factual clarity. It contained no accusations, only observations that might concern a wife, the car meetups with Raj's photos from the office security camera archive, blurred for our privacy, the restaurant sightings, the behavioral shifts. It was signed, "Concerned employees who think you deserve better." We sent it from a secure, anonymous proxy. The response was not what we expected. It was silence for 3 days. Then an email to my work account, the only one of us with a publicly listed name on the internal directory. It was from Eleanor. It read, "David, thank you for your concern. Could we speak? Discreetly? The Coffee Bean on 5th, tomorrow, 7 p.m. I went, my heart pounding like a faulty server fan. She was already there, looking tired but composed. She didn't waste words. I've known for a while something was off. Your email provided the where and the who. I needed the what. What is she doing at his work? How is this affecting your team? I told her everything. The incompetence, the harassment, the stolen files, the toxic atmosphere. I showed her our logs, our transcripts. I played one audio clip of Karen sneering about my human brick wall presence. Eleanor's face, already pale, tightened into a mask of grim fury. This wasn't just about a cheating husband. It was about him compromising his professional integrity, his team's welfare, and the company's security for his affair. He's always been vain, she said, her voice quiet steel, but this is pathological. You've given me what I need, but you need to protect yourselves. Go to HR now and request that your complaint be escalated to the General Counsel's office immediately, citing a hostile work environment and potential corporate espionage by an unqualified individual placed by a manager in a conflict of interest. Use those exact words, I'll handle the rest. We did exactly that. The next morning, Chloe, Raj, Marcus, and I requested a joint urgent meeting with the head of HR and copied the General Counsel. We presented a forensic, professional dossier, the evidence of Karen's lack of qualifications versus the hiring records, the logs of her data snooping, the documented harassment with witness statements and audio. We didn't mention the affair. We didn't need to. The professional malfeasance was damning enough. The meeting was a shockwave. The HR director, a friend of Michael's or not, turned ashen reading the honeypot access logs. The general counsel, a severe woman named Patricia, asked sharp, precise questions. As the meeting concluded, Patricia's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then at us. "Remain here for a moment," she said, and stepped out. We later learned what the rest that Eleanor handled was. She'd arrived at headquarters 15 minutes after our meeting started. She demanded to see the CEO, a man named Robert, who had attended their wedding. She wasn't hysterical. She was a businesswoman presenting a case. She presented her evidence of the affair, then connected it to our professional dossier. "My husband," she said coolly, "is using company resources to fund and enable his relationship with an employee he unethically hired, who is now actively creating liability through harassment and intellectual property theft. This is a massive failure of governance. I'm here as a shareholder's wife and as a witness to his compromised judgment." The fallout was swift and brutal. It happened too fast for Michael to spin a story. Karen was called into a meeting with HR and security, confronted with the evidence of her unauthorized file access and the harassment complaints. She immediately broke down, sobbing that Michael had told her it was okay, that he'd protect her, and that he'd said I was a problem that needed to be managed. She was escorted from the building by security, her employment terminated for cause, violation of company policy, and creating a hostile work environment. Michael was summoned to the CEO's office. He walked in, arrogant, expecting to smooth things over. He walked out 30 minutes later, his security badge deactivated, his company phone and laptop confiscated. He was fired for gross misconduct, abuse of managerial authority, conflict of interest, and negligent hiring. The official announcement was vague, citing a violation of company ethics and leadership standards. The unofficial gossip, fueled by Eleanor's quiet conversations with other executives' wives, was utterly precise and devastating. A week later, I was called into Patricia, the general counsel's office. I feared some legal backlash. Instead, she offered me a seat. "Your team handled this with remarkable restraint and professionalism," she said. "You followed protocol, you gathered evidence, you escalated appropriately. You also exposed a significant vulnerability. The CEO was particularly impressed that you focused on the business impact, not the salacious details." She slid a folder across the desk. It was a promotion offer to IT security analyst, a role on Chloe's team with a significant pay raise. "We need people who understand that integrity is part of the infrastructure," Patricia said. "The role is yours if you want it." I took it. Chloe and Raj celebrated by buying me a new ergonomic chair. Marcus clapped me on the back so hard I stumbled. The department's atmosphere, once poisoned, cleared almost overnight. It was once again a place of quiet cliques, friendly debates, and the shared joy of solving problems. I heard through the grapevine that Eleanor filed for divorce immediately, with a prenup that left Michael with very little. Karen, her name now toxic in our local tech scene, reportedly moved back to her hometown. Michael, his career and marriage in ashes, became a cautionary tale whispered at industry mixers. As for me, I still eat my chicken tikka masala at my desk. The only difference now is the quiet and the view from my new, slightly more private workstation. The system hadn't just been debugged, it had been upgraded. And sometimes the most elegant solution isn't a complex line of code, but simply removing the malicious code, file by careful file, until the original program can run cleanly again. He wasn't just a bad boss, he was a compromised node in the network, using his authority to insert malicious code, Karen, and then rewriting the rules to protect that vulnerability. The hostility you endured was the symptom, not the disease. The disease was the utter collapse of managerial integrity, where personal favors overrode professional standards and cruelty became a tool to obscure incompetence. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.